Hello everyone, and welcome to Trending, a new show just for you, West Hollywood, here on WehoTV, that takes a look around this city and highlights things that are, well, trending. I'm Tracy Savage, your host, and together we're going to find out more about people, events, locations, shopping, parties, and the wonderful collection of trending subjects that make West Hollywood a city like no other. Today on Trending, we're going to find out more about how you are helping to shape the future of West Hollywood. In case you haven't heard, the West Hollywood 2013 community study process is underway right now. Now, in a nutshell, the study helps to identify your community and social services needs, and the results also help the city figure out how to spend taxpayers' dollars. Here to explain it all to us are three members of the 2013 Community Study Team. I have Andrea Nelson, Abby Monroe, and Stephen Prestwood. I want to thank you all very much for joining me here today.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so let's begin with a simple question. What are your roles on this team? Andrea, we'll start with you.
So I'm the project manager on the team, and my role is really to oversee everything from beginning to end, make sure that all the staff knows what they need to do, and make sure that the city has everything that they need.
Very good. And how about you, Abby? What do you do?
I'm the assistant project manager, so I've been assisting Andrea and doing all the things that she just mentioned and coming down to West Hollywood and spending quite a bit of time with the community here.
You have been?
Yes.
Like we're talking weeks and weeks?
Since January, we've been down here every week.
Wow, that's terrific. Great place to hang out, huh?
Exactly.
You probably don't want to go home.
No.
All right, and what about you, Stephen? What is your role here?
I'm an independent consultant in communications and community development, and I've been here helping out with facilitation of the focus groups and community meetings.
Perfect. All right. So, well, just a moment ago, I gave a very condensed version of what exactly this study is all about, but let's talk details now. And Andrea, can you tell us what exactly is a community study? It's kind of a broad term, and why is it really important for the residents of West Hollywood?
Yeah, sure. So a community study for the city of West Hollywood is, as you said, it's really looking to see what are the needs of the community and what are social service needs specifically. And the decisions, or what comes out of the process, will then be used to determine funding priorities for social services in the city.
And social services, we're talking about help for seniors, help for the homeless, that kind of thing?
Yeah, children, youth, HIV/AIDS, all sorts of things. And the city of West Hollywood is really unique in that it provides a lot of its funding for social services. So $4 million from the city's budget goes towards services. The community study has also been a really great opportunity to educate the community on what social services are available.
Right.
So people have been able to learn about the wealth of resources that are available to them.
So when the final report is said and done, you then hand that off to the city, explain to them what it means, and then they figure out where the money should go.
Exactly.
And it's really based on what the residents want, residents need. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's completely based on what the residents want and need. Yes.
So Stephen, how did you develop a strategy for collecting all this data? A lot of residents here, a lot of people to talk about. How did you go about going out and getting that information?
Right, well, it's a big effort, and the study was designed from the beginning to honor the diversity of West Hollywood. And as Andrea mentioned, West Hollywood is a unique community. There are a lot of immigrants. It's diverse in terms of ethnicity. There's a large LGBT community, the majority of whom are gay men. It's an intergenerational community. It's a broad range of age groups from children to seniors. So there are a lot of different groups that you want to understand when you're performing a study like this. So one of the differences from past years is that this time around there was a very intense and multifaceted approach to the public outreach portion of the project. So just to cite some numbers, there were over 30 interviews with community members. We had 11 pop-up workshops, which are workshops that we conducted at various locations in the city. There were 12 focus group discussions, And we also had one community meeting for the general public as well.
And you talk about 12 focus group discussions, a room full of people, a handful of people. How many people do you bring in for the focus group?
The focus groups were arranged around specific constituencies and demographics in the city. So seniors, youth, people living with HIV/AIDS, immigrants from the former Soviet Union. So particular constituencies that are unique and important in the city of West Hollywood.
All right. Well, you also mentioned, Stephen, pop-up workshops. Abby, what exactly is a pop-up workshop?
Sure. So a pop-up workshop is a technique that we've developed to really bring the public meeting to the people. Instead of just hosting a meeting at City Hall, which is a traditional practice of many municipalities.
And that can be boring.
Yes, and not many people show up because it's an inconvenient time for them.
Right.
And so we decided, while we did do one large general public meeting, we wanted to also bring the opportunity to provide feedback out to the streets. So we set up a booth in different locations, different parks, different parts of West Hollywood, and created some interactive activities that people could contribute feedback about social services to. And so we had huge matrices that listed different types of social services, and people could let us know if they felt that that was a priority or not. We had another matrix that listed target populations, some of which Stephen just mentioned, and people could indicate if those populations were really important to the community, making sure that they had the services that they needed. We had a Bright Ideas wall where you could just put up any idea that you wanted to share with the city, and activities for kids. And then I brought one I can show you.
Sure.
We did one activity that was for just that person that was walking by and only had 2 seconds
And you're
to
going to
give
grab
feedback.
them. Yes.
Yeah, and traditionally these are the people that don't typically go to public meetings.
Of course.
So wanted to make sure we captured them. So we set up what we like to call budget buckets. And we labeled 8 buckets with cards like this. So this one says healthcare services, HIV/AIDS prevention, substance abuse and mental health. And then we gave people poker chips based on whether they live in West Hollywood, work in West Hollywood, or just play here.
Right.
And they got to vote for their 3 favorite or most services that were most important to them.
Very good.
So that's just a little snapshot.
Well, you know, not everybody, you're right, not everybody will go to these meetings, and not everyone will stay, and not everyone will stay awake. So the fact that you're out there and you're getting out with the public, did you get it pretty good? Was it successful? Did you get feedback and able to actually get out there with the people?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. We have engaged with over 1,000 community members throughout this process, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback. People really enjoyed participating in the pop-up workshops and the focus groups, and we feel that we reached quite a diversity of people.
Well, West Hollywood is such a, as you've discovered, I'm sure, a walking community. There's people out all the time. It's fabulous. It's a wonderful place to go out and, you know, walk to restaurants and walk to stores. So if you can get out there where they are, what a great solution to get some answers. So you've been collecting data, information. What did you find out about the makeup of West Hollywood? Andrea, who lives in West Hollywood, and really who are our neighbors?
Great question. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the data that we found, and then I'm going to pass it off to Abby and Stephen to talk about other parts of it. But in terms of population, it's really interesting. So the city of West Hollywood has actually decreased slowly. That number of households and the number of people who live in households has all decreased. So right now in 2010, the U.S. Census states that there's 34,399 people who live in West Hollywood. And over the last 10 years, that's decreased by about 1,500 people.
Yeah. Okay, so we know what the population is, we know where it was and where it is today.
Exactly. So then gender is really interesting. The percentage of men in West Hollywood has slowly increased. So it's 56% of the population in West Hollywood is men, and 44% are women. So the percentage of women in West Hollywood has slowly decreased since 1980. Okay. And this is very different from the county. The county is 49-51%.
Right, very, very even. But, okay.
Yeah, so different in West Hollywood.
All right, and age?
Age is also very interesting. So between 2000 and 2010, the proportion of kids under 5 increased, and also the proportion of seniors, so 65 and over, has increased. So we're seeing ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
so
more
that
seniors.
means, of course, when you find that out, your services have to impact those age groups. I mean, you go, oh, wow, we have more seniors. We got to figure out how to handle that and what to do with that. What about income?
Income, on the next page. So the median household income, which was surprising to me, is actually lower than LA County's median household income. So in West Hollywood, it's $52,009, and in LA County, it's $55,000. The other interesting part of income is that the proportion of residents that are making $14,999 a year, so $15,000 a year, is higher than in LA County. It's actually 17% of the people that live in West Hollywood make
less than
$15,000 a year.
Okay. That's a very important number to know as well when you're providing social services.
Exactly.
These are people that you would think definitely need that. Wow,
Exactly.
interesting. And ethnicity.
So 78% of West Hollywood residents identified as white alone. And this, as we know, is very different from Los Angeles County.
Yeah.
In Los Angeles, only 28% of people identify as white alone. At the same time, those who have identified as Asian and Hispanic Latino have slowly increased over the last couple of decades. So it was 6% in 2000, and now it's 11% Hispanic.
That's a big jump.
Latino, and Asian 2% in 2000 and 5% in 2010.
Okay. And then immigration and citizenship.
Citizenship has slowly increased over the last 10 years. It was 16% in 2000, now 14%.
So that's people who come here and apply for citizenship and achieve that, and that number has gone up.
Yes, has increased, and it's higher than LA County as a whole. It's
Okay.
interesting. And then immigration, as many of us know, 11% of the total population is from countries of the former Soviet Union.
Okay, yes, in the city.
Yes, it's interesting though because that's actually decreased.
Yeah.
So over the last decade, it's decreased by 4%.
Okay, wow, that's a big drop as well. Interesting. All right, Abby, we have more, I know.
So one of the questions that we asked in the 2006 community study was about sexual orientation. We asked very similar questions from this survey as well, and we found that actually 12% of the heterosexuals responding to our survey decreased.
Okay.
But overall, 11% of the survey respondents didn't answer that question, so we're not quite sure what happened there. But it's an interesting statistic. And every other category for sexual orientation sort of remained the same.
Okay.
And then we also looked at housing data from the census. And in the last decade, West Hollywood has only added 375 housing units. But like Andrea said, the population has decreased overall, so that's not very unusual. And then the proportion of homeowners to renters has remained the same at 78% renting versus 22% owning their homes.
It's not like there are huge acres of land to build on in West Hollywood.
True. But it's very different than the county average. For example, only 52% rent and 48% own comparatively.
Yeah, okay. All right.
And then we also noticed that the percentage of people that have moved from their home in the last 5 years has decreased from 60% in 2000 to 39% in 2010.
Who
so
can
that
afford to sell their house?
right, everyone is sort of staying in
Yeah,
place, which is
yeah.
really important to know.
Sure, sure.
We also looked at education. And I think people will be happy to know that the residents of West Hollywood are more educated than LA County as a whole, and this trend has grown over the past decade.
Okay.
So we have residents with some college education has increased from 59% in 2000 to 64% in 2010. And those with graduate degrees have gone from 12% to 18%, which is much higher than the county's average at 10.
Yeah, I would say 18%, that's
Yeah.
a big chunk.
Smart city.
It sure is.
Yes, and as far as employment, 8% of West Hollywood workers, those are people that are over 16 and eligible to work, are unemployed currently, and that is slightly higher than previous decades, but pretty similar to the rest of the county, so that's pretty standard.
Okay.
We also were interested in learning about families with children. And we found that overall, the number of families with children has decreased slightly from 6% to 5% in 2010.
Okay.
And what Andrea mentioned earlier is that the population of children under 5 has grown. but all children under the age of 18 has decreased.
Okay.
So we're seeing a reduction in children of school-going age,
Right.
but an increase in much
little
younger
ones,
children.
yeah.
So there's something interesting going
Yeah.
on there. And we also learned that the proportion of husband and wife families has decreased, and that the percentage of single-parent families has increased. We also looked at veterans, and the city of West Hollywood has 955 civilian veterans and 9 active duty veterans, or sorry,
Military.
active military, which is just 3% of the population. And nearly half of them are 65 years of age and older.
Oh, okay.
So that just means that there aren't very many recent veterans.
Right, right. All right, so we know who lives here. Stephen, what else did you find out in this study about the residents who live here? What other types of data did you collect?
West Hollywood, the rates of obesity are lower here
Yeah.
when compared to the county average.
Sure, you got to walk.
Exactly,
Get
it's a
your exercise.
pedestrian-oriented
Yep.
city, so that's
Yep.
great. The rates of chronic disease are lower in West Hollywood when you compare that to the county averages.
Okay.
Some things for concern, though. The rate of HIV transmission is still one of the highest in the county, and the rates of alcohol and drug use, as well as alcohol-related mental illnesses, is about 50% higher in West Hollywood than the state average. So those are some areas that probably still need a lot of consideration and concern as they look at social services moving forward.
Right, all right. Well, we already know that West Hollywood provides funding to a wide range of social services, and it has for decades. They're absolutely committed to that. In fact, the city's budget allocates about $4 million to social services. Now, based on what we've just been talking about, these study results, can you tell that the money is being spent in the right places? Andrea, what's the community's social services and health needs now compared to before, and what has changed and what needs to change?
That's a great question. Well, in the community survey, which was the statistically valid survey, people identified that their top 3 social services, and those were providing law enforcement, providing fire protection services, and neighborhood crime prevention programs.
Basic across the board.
Very basic across the board, which is interesting because at the same time in the community meetings and during our focus groups, we didn't hear that. We heard more healthcare, HIV education and prevention programs, youth and children programming. So that's what we're working on now to consolidate those two. And then they also reported that the most common health issues were HIV, AIDS, hearing or sight impairment, and medical disabilities.
So those are things that we did not necessarily have at the top 10 years ago?
Actually, it's all the same.
It's all
so
the same.
it's exactly the same
Right.
as it was
Okay.
in 2006.
And did you find any changes in trends then from?
Not in the importance of social services.
Interesting. Okay.
It's still important to people.
Yes, absolutely. So Abby, did you ask questions about sustainability? What exactly are people interested in?
Sure. Yeah, we took the opportunity to ask some extra questions on our statistically valid survey, and
Yeah.
one of the topics was sustainability. We found that West Hollywood residents already do quite a bit of things to support the environment.
Yes.
They recycle. 75% of the city recycles. They work on reducing their energy and water use. They all use reusable grocery bags. Purchase energy efficient appliances, and many people walk.
And there's bike racks all over the
That's
city.
true.
It's so easy to ride your bike around the city too.
That's true. However, what's interesting is that 65% of the people that responded to the survey said that they do not ride a bike.
Well, okay.
82% do not use car share programming, and 56% do not use public transit, and 47% don't carpool. So
Well,
there are a
overall,
lot of...
It's still a Southern California.
That's true. I know
still
people
have
love their
to-
cars here, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunity, I think, in that information.
So everyone I meet loves living in West Hollywood. So I would assume that the overall basic feeling is that this is a great place to live. Stephen, are people generally happy who live here in this city?
People love living in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
That was one of the things.
You're not being paid to say that.
I'm not. We heard it over and over
Yeah.
and over again. In
I love
fact,
it.
over 90% of the people that we spoke to responded that their quality of life in West Hollywood was good or excellent. So that's a pretty tremendous statement for the quality of life, I think, in the city. Some of the things that they really like, we've mentioned already, such as the pedestrian aspect
Right.
of life in West Hollywood. People can go shopping, they can go out to eat, they can go to the gym, they can run their errands, do business, all walking from their place of residence. And that's so important. You hear from people, that's the quality of life that they're really looking for. Some of the complaints that they had, if you could really call them that, were traffic and congestion, which is very typical for this area of the state. And
Don't get me started.
you know a lot about
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And let's see if there was anything else they really pointed out. Do you have anything to add in terms of concerns that people had?
I mean, we have a sheriff's substation right here, so you know that they've got to be happy having the police protection that they have, and
Right.
we don't get many brush fires.
They were most happy, I believe, with their fire protection.
Yes.
And the police services.
Sure.
And they did have some concerns about the homeless,
Okay.
which shows that they have a good heart here in the city as well.
Yeah. So concerns about the homeless, like how can we help them, as opposed to concerns about the homeless, they're camping out on my front porch.
Yes, we heard
Yeah.
a lot of concern about what the city can do to help
That's
end homelessness in
Yeah.
West Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah. You're probably not going to get that feeling everywhere. It's nice to hear that, that people have a heart.
I thought it was really remarkable. Somebody pulled out a statistic that said that there were 42 homeless people in the city of West Hollywood, and they were outraged that there were 42, that it wasn't 0.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, so we know that a service, and we've been talking about all the services, is no good if people don't know it's available. Andrea, did you get the sense that West Hollywood residents, that they're familiar with the social services that are available and know how to access them?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
We heard that that people use the city website, that they really appreciate all the mailings that they get from the city, and that they also appreciate the emails that they get from the city. We also heard that there are places that could be built on, and there are things that could be improved upon. Residents know that there's a lot out there. They just don't know always what is out there and how to find it. So that's one thing that we're hoping will improve on in the future.
Right. So you give the message to City Hall, and then they take it from there and say, okay, we know what to do then. We know how to handle this situation.
Yeah.
So what is next for West Hollywood? Abby, what is the study telling us about the future of social services? Are we going to see a major overhaul?
I don't think so. I think what we're going to see is sort of the maintenance of the existing level of social services and the quality of social services that are here. And there will be some key things that we point out in the final report of the study that are areas that the city could improve, but really they're doing a great job.
Yeah.
And we will be bringing this information to the Human Services Commission as well as City Council soon, and getting their feedback as well on all of these data points. And then as a team, developing some recommendations that the city can take forward when they're thinking about making funding decisions in the future.
Do you ever go back into the community and say, okay, we're juggling a couple of things, we want to hear from you again? I mean, is there some follow-up to this ever?
One of the recommendations that I think we may put forward is to continue to engage with the community on this topic. And
Right.
so we hope to organize some system going forward for continuing to get community feedback.
Sure. Well, you know, West Hollywood has an award-winning website.
Yes, it
and
does.
you have to think that that is a huge help for its residents. Did you hear that out in the community? I mean, it's really easy if you have computer access and internet access to find out anything in the city of West Hollywood. It's all right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I think one of the things that we're looking at is what can we do for those that don't have computer access,
Right,
and how can we
right.
make the information equally accessible to them?
Sure, sure. Public libraries, do you stress that they... But, you know, for a lot of people, my mom doesn't like even going on the
Right,
internet,
yeah.
so it's a scary thing for some people.
Right.
So you can't all rely on that.
Exactly.
Old-fashioned mailings are still the
way to
most
go.
popular
Are they
way
really?
to go.
Yeah, wow. Expensive though, right?
Expensive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, today we learned a whole lot about this community study, but if people are interested in finding out more about the community report, Stephen, how can we get a copy of it? Is it going to be made public?
It will be made public. In fact, the entire report will be available on the West Hollywood, City of West Hollywood website,
There you
weho.org.
go. Yes.
The easiest way might be to simply email communitystudy@weho.org and request a copy of the executive summary. But if you'd like to call the city to receive a copy of the executive summary, call this number. It's 323 848-6510. And if you speak Spanish, Spanish-speaking staff will also be available at that number. If you are a Russian-speaking resident, you can call 323-848-6326. And for the hearing impaired, you can call 323-848-6496, and city staff will be happy to help you.
So I'm not going to put you on the spot too much, but you've done these studies before in other communities. This is your job. This is what you do. You're experts at this. So overall, the city of West Hollywood looks pretty darn good.
It looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are happy, they're healthy, and most importantly, the city really cares about the community. It's really one of the biggest goals to support the community in need.
So keep doing what they're doing.
So keep doing what they're doing. They're a model for the rest of the country.
All right. Well, Andrea Nelson, Abby Monroe, and Stephen Prestwood, I want to thank you all very much for joining me here today and really explaining this whole survey, the study that's impacting this entire city.
Great.
Thank you,
Thank
Tracy,
you.
for having
You're
me.
very welcome. And that is trending for today. If you have a comment or would like more information, or if you have an idea for a trending topic, just leave a message at WehoTV on Facebook or on Twitter. You can also email WehoTV@weho.org and put #trending in the subject line, and we're going to get right back to you. I'm Tracy Savage, your host. Have a great evening.